Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
We are here to talk about the crazy and ridiculous No More Heroes 3.
I like that you got your sequel and I also got my sequel, and we both got the sequel to the other games that the other person doesn't play, but we're super into.
and both based on your Psychonauts 2 thing are fantastic.
Yes, I'm very excited to hear about this.
I was thinking about what I wanted to say about this, and I'm almost terrified to talk about it because so much of this stuff is I don't want to ruin this for anybody else because it's so incredibly amazing.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be very vague. I'll hit the main gameplay points and kind of hint at some stuff, but I want to be very vague because this is a game that plays on your expectations and just flips them around. Literally whatever batshit crazy idea Suda51 happened to have, he's just yeah, screw it, let's go. I like this idea. We're going to toss it in here. And it's so good. It is the high point of the No More Heroes franchise in my mind. It is incredible, and it's probably one of my favorite games I've played this year.
I can't believe, did you expect this game to be good?
No, I think I literally texted you 3 days before it came out because I was I wanted to get No More Heroes 3 day one, but review, because it had that weird review embargo thing.
Yes, yeah.
So I was that makes me think it's not going to be good. And I was oh crap, No More Heroes 3 is going to suck, isn't it? So I had this weird and I had just kind of started getting into Travis Strikes again because I wanted to play it before it came out. So I had this weird hesitancy of this is either going to be my favorite game ever or the biggest pile of shit I've ever seen. And it is definitely on one of my favorite games ever. This game,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Right now is insane. So just to kind of get into it. If you saw that initial trailer for this game, the announcement trailer with the weird anime alien thing and all of that, that is the intro to this game. And that blew my mind when I turned it on. I was oh, this is that trailer. That trailer that you're I have no clue what this is. And then at the end, Travis just pops up and is hey guys, what's up? And then it flashes the logo. That's literally the intro. The ending of it is slightly different after Fu, the main bad guy, says I'm a goddamn superhero. And then Travis cuts in. Yeah. At that point, it doesn't do the Travis cuts, and there's a little bit more to it to kind of explain what's going to happen next. But that is the intro of this game, which if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But it's basically this little cute alien is hanging out with this little boy in the most anime little forest ever, and then 20 years later shows up as this weird, creepy looking monster and's what the hell's going on, asshole?
It seemed like they try to play it in a way you meet a friend you haven't seen since elementary school, and he turned out to be a dick.
Yeah,
and okay,
that's kind of what it is because and again, it plays on this a whole lot as you go through. But basically, what happens is Damon, who's the guy or the little kid, is sitting there on this giant tower and just sitting there, and they're hey, what are you gonna do? He's it's been 20 years. Hold my meetings. And that's when Fu shows up because he's I'll come back in 20 years and see you, best friend. It's gonna be great. And so he shows up and basically just decimates Travis's city, just blows the whole thing up. His city, and Travis is what are these aliens doing? I gotta go mess them up. And then basically to get the game loop in there, they set it up as if you want to fight Fu, he brought all his cronies and they're gonna try and do this the right way, and we're not just gonna come blow it up. You want to get to me, fine, go through our 10 galactic assassin ranking, which if you played No More Heroes before is the general thing, is that Travis is assassin number 10 in the world, and he's got to kill his way up to number 1. So in this, you've got to kill your way up to Fu at number 1, and it's just, it takes that No More Heroes gameplay loop and style, and because it's not just weird crazy assassin people, it's no, these are just weird aliens. We're gonna go crazy, we're gonna do everything we can with this, and it is filled with so much crazy ridiculous style and so much of its own uniqueness that it's hard to explain how cool it feels to play this.
So with games like this, where it's kind of oh, crazy style, crazy ideas, usually execution's a little wonky.
Yep.
I mean, so I imagine, is it kind of some of these ideas are cool, they hit it out of the park, and other times they're just kind of it's to me it's we're gonna swing for the fences and sometimes we'll miss kind of thing.
Yes and no.
Okay.
No, in terms of there is not a boss fight I could look at this and go, that boss fight was not great.
Oh, cool.
Every boss fight is incredibly good. The early ones are, you know, kind of toned down, like getting the feel for it. But as they go on, they
Yeah.
build so much and they do so many cool things with it. So many unique things where like a quote unquote boss fight isn't a boss fight, but like one of the earlier ones plays like Panzer Dragoon, where you're in like a giant robot armor, like flying around the thing, shooting at it. There's ones that
that's sick.
completely play on like what a boss fight could be. And of the 10 or 12 boss fights, probably half of them are like an actual full on boss fight. The other 6 have some weird, unique thing going on with them. That part is incredible. But the gameplay loop of this, and if you play No More Heroes, that's the general idea, is you go get your money, register for your fight, do your boss fight. So you've got mini games, what they call in this designated fights, which are basically like prove you're strong enough to go to the next guy. Instead of doing like prior No More Heroes games had like full on levels, this is like go to these spots, do like 3 of these fights, and get your money. That's how you get into the next assassin battle. The assassin battle's incredible. All the other stuff is where if you told me you absolutely hated this game, I would go, I understand.
What I don't understand, the thing I never understood about No More Heroes is the part where you're getting money is never great. Is it the similarly never great, or they're kind of like, okay, the joke before, I think in No More Heroes 1 at least, was like, we're going to actually make this literally boring and not fun because it's a boring and not fun job. But do they at least like mess with that a little bit? So even if those mini games aren't amazing, they're still like fun, just inherently.
Most of them are good. There's a couple that kind of get old. They play with like weird spins on it. So like there's one where you go collect garbage, but as you're collecting garbage, you're collecting it from the swamp and alligators will try and eat you, and you have to do a quick time event to body slam an alligator.
Sure.
Like even the mini games have that style and have that feel to them, and it works really, really well. There's a couple like lawn mowing where it's like that's probably the easiest way to get money, where it's like, sure, by the end of this it gets old, but they're about 2 minutes long. So it's even one of those things where okay, whatever. The issue comes with just the general open worldness of it, because the open world is bland, slow, a mess, and there's nothing there.
So it's every No More Heroes.
It's honestly, if you were to boot up No More Heroes 1 and you were to just go and play that side by side with No More Heroes 3, I don't think you'd be able to tell much of a difference.
I thought you were joking until I actually did load. I was like, that seems like you're exaggerating. And then I actually did load up to No More Heroes 3. I was like, oh boy, this actually does look real bad.
It looks real bad. And it plays kind of funky. So basically you're just driving to the points, really. But there's weird collision detection on the bike, where there were some times where I would run into a bush and it would knock me off my bike. So other times I'd just go through the bush. There are times where like, oh, I hit that thing, but I'm good. And it depends on speed and everything. The open world's just kind of a mess, and it's just clearly there to get you from minigame to minigame. But again, that's kind of part of No More Heroes' charms, are these weird little mini games, and I don't want to get into too specifics with them because there are some that are like really, really ridiculously crazy. But the general ones, like mowing lawns, there's one that basically plays like Burnout, where you got to go knock out another car on your bike.
Oh, that's cool.
There's the one where you're picking up trash, and again, there's one or two other ones that were kind of one of those things where it's like, what is this thing? And I loaded it up, and I'm like, this is really what I'm doing right now?
Okay.
and that's what really embodies No More Heroes, is that, oh my god, am I really doing this right now? And that feeling is amazing. And I think that's where, because again, we kind of started this off with, is this game good or bad? And if you go look on like OpenCritic, Metacritic, whatever, you'll see like 9s, 9.5s, and you'll see like 4s.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And it's a game that I could totally see anybody justified in giving it either score. If you are in this and you're going like, I understand Suda51, I understand No More Heroes, I know I'm going to play a game that is going to be crazy, ridiculous, over the top, and just like try and mess with me as much as it possibly can, I think you're in that 9 or 10. If you're like, this has sword fighting, I like Devil May Cry sword fighting, this looks like it's got cool bosses, I like cool bosses, I could very easily see how this is a 4. If you're the type of person who's like, I need my 4K 60 FPS, not the game for you. I think this...
I like, Sorry, I was just thinking the tone too. The tone's such a weird game as well. Like just the tone of it is like kind of, if you're either you're in hard, because it's very self-referential. We're in a video game sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And again, I don't want to get into spoilers, but there's things where it just there are lines of dialogue where it's like, oh yeah, we got to do this for the gamers, and like, oh yeah, people get bored with this. What are you doing? And there's an entire scene where he basically just goes off on how this entire genre of video games is the worst thing that's ever been invented, and he can't understand why anybody likes this because it's just boring shit to him, and I hate this, and are you really trying to do that? And there's lots of like, as you're playing, you're like, oh, that's clearly a reference to blank game. And like, oh, like I mentioned, the early one is Panzer Dragoon, where it's like you're clearly sitting like the camera, the way the style is, the way that everything is, plays very similar to a Panzer Dragoon game. In my mind, instantly goes, whoa, cool, Panzer Dragoon. I get what you're doing here. You're trying to riff on that. You're trying to riff on like giant mech games. I get it. This is really cool. If you don't have that background and you're just like, this just feels like a shitty, like I'm pulling the trigger and shooting random stuff at this. I don't get what this is trying to do.
Oh, so like if you don't, oh, that's kind of interesting because I'm sure it's parroting a lot of things. And if you just don't, if you're not seeped in that already, it's like just gonna kind of go over your. It can be fun in and of itself, but really the extra layer to it is pretty fun. Because I know there's like a lot of self-referential stuff to like Kamen Rider and stuff, and I don't think either of us have familiarity with that. But I know he like really likes that sort of Power Rangers stuff too.
Like there's an entire thing in between levels where it's him and one of his friends sitting on a couch talking about movies. And I had never heard of a single one of these movies to the point where I like literally like, is this like a real dude? Because like you've been talking about this. I looked it up. It's like, oh, this is like a real director that exists. I have no clue who this guy is. And there are literally like
very funny
minutes long cutscenes after every episode, like between like 1 and 3 minute cutscenes of these guys just talking about this dude's movies over and over again after every single fight. And it took me halfway through. I was like, I have to look this up. Is this a real thing? And it's literally like, oh yeah, no, this is like a famous like director of like these weird indie movies, these weird movies, and it's just Travis going on about how much he loves these movies, and all of it over my head, and it was just like, oh, if you knew what this was probably super crazy insane. I have no point of reference though, so like I got to point myself, this is just irritating and boring, let me look it up.
Sure. And I could see the whole game being like that if people aren't familiar with that.
Exactly.
Interesting. Interesting.
Especially again if you're just going in and looking at like, whoa, this has cool character designs and it's like a big action game, and if you don't understand what this game's doing, that's where I see, okay, I'm going to give this game a 4 out of 10. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I think that there is enough quality aspects where, if you are that, like, I need my 60 FPS, I need no technical issues, it definitely has those as well to bring it down. I can see it.
Yeah. But
it's so much fun. It's one of those games where, like, every time you go to a boss fight, so again, you get your money, you do your designated fights, you're like, all right, boss battle time. Every time you go in, you have no clue what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
There was one where it's literally like, the other guy got pissed and killed him, so you skip this one, buddy, and you're like, and then you get tossed back out to the open world. Like it's that kind of stuff where it's just like, in no other game am I going to go like, oh yeah, I saved everyone, I got to a boss fight. It's like, oh yeah, sorry man, like maybe next time.
That's funny because I could see that being like really annoying to somebody, but again, like if you just played so many games, it's like actually I've just never seen that before.
Yeah, it's subverting your expectations. It's playing with what you expect. It's just so cool. I would be really, really upset with myself if I didn't talk about the characters in this game.
Sure, yeah.
One of the issues I think No More Heroes has had is that because it's just kind of like, oh, I'm going to be the best assassin. It always just feels like you're running through characters. Admittedly, I have not played the other two in probably 10 years, but I do not remember there being a central villain. I do not remember there being like this main overarching character who from beginning to end is there taunting Travis the whole time. Yes, obviously he has a goal and everything, but I just don't remember that character. Fu, the main villain in this, is such an incredible character and is the perfect antagonist to Travis because they're both self-confident, like overzealous assholes. And just it literally, when you're playing it, it's like, what if Travis, who's this like, oh yeah, I'm the best assassin, I'm gonna do anything I want, was an asshole alien. And it plays so well because I mean, like, funny. Even when he shows up and he's like, yeah, I got this, and Damon, the guy that he comes to like see after 20 years, is like the head of this corporation. He's like, I got a board meeting. He's like, sweet, I'm gonna come. And then he walks in like, these guys are boring as hell, and just like starts going off on how a board meeting's the stupidest thing he's ever seen in his life. And it's just like, he has so much personality, and it's one of those things where it's like, by the end, obviously, like he's the number one assassin, and I don't want to get into specifics with what happens to him, but by the end, you're just like, I kind of love this guy. Like, I get that he's the bad guy, but just the way that his character goes throughout the game, and he gets pissed at people, and he's like, you see little vignettes of like him talking to the other assassin aliens because they all broke out of prison together, and he's like, man, like, I know you can take down Travis. You're gonna be the guy. You're gonna be the guy. But dude, if you die, that's gonna suck. You're probably gonna die, aren't you? Well, see you, man.
Oh, that's
and it's just
so you end up kind of caring for the villains then in this game. It's like it's
so good. Yeah, again, I want to talk more about it, but I feel like I'm going to start slowly getting more into spoilers, and I don't want to do that.
Sure.
If you haven't played any other No More Hero stuff, you can still jump into this. I do know the 1 and 2 are on Switch now. Travis Strikes Again is there. All those characters show up, but they have like just like, oh yeah, it's just this character and they're here doing something. You don't really need to know that background information. So if you're looking at it going, man, this seems like a lot, like the references to No More Hero stuff is very, very small. It's there. Okay. It's not important. Like at one point, Travis's wife shows up and she's in the game a couple times before. And he's like, man, I'm being a bad husband or something like that. And you're like, oh, they're married. Sure. I didn't realize these characters were married. And then that's like the only time they bring it up the entire rest of the game.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Hey, remember you have kids? And he's like, oh yeah, how are the kids doing? And then not brought up again.
Okay.
So again, it's one of those games where I absolutely love it. I could talk forever about how much it does that's just unique and special to it. But I don't want to get into spoilers because, again, I think it's one of those games that if all this sounds interesting, if you're looking for something that's just going to really mess with your expectations and really kind of look at video games in a different way, you just got to experience what it's doing. So go play it.
Game of the year?
As of now, yes. No questions asked. But it's one of those things I was thinking about that because it's like Resident Evil is a much better game.
Sure.
Like if you were to look at like what makes a good game, Resident Evil is probably better. I had infinitely more fun playing this.
Sure.
Ratchet and Clank, technical masterpiece.
Yeah.
This thing's running at like 20 frames per second and I'm having a blast.
That's funny. Yeah.
So again, it depends on how you weigh it, but like it's the game I had the most fun with this year, no questions asked.
Cool.
But we are Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening. Follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming, and we will see you later.
Bye.